listening to the VMX Show, Season 5.
Hello, and welcome to the VMX Show. You're listening to Season 5, Episode 8. So, we're going solo again, no big deal. I did actually reach out to a bunch of people to become on the show and guest with me, but haven't got any responses. I reached out to a couple of, maybe I was overextending myself. I reached out to a couple of actually pretty famous YouTubers and a couple other people that, you know, they may have been like, I've never heard of this guy before, you know. So, you know, didn't hurt to try, though. Didn't hurt to try. I will continue to try, since my viewers all want to be on the show but don't want to commit to actually doing it. So, I will reach out and touch someone, so to speak. Your mom, oh, she's hot. Alright, let's get to your questions and comments. We've got some interesting ones this week. I'm going to start with a guy with the very unenviable name of Hans Fartknocker. Don't call me Fartknocker, butthead! Oh, anyway, it's Butt Knocker that he doesn't like to be called. I warned you about that. To Necro VMX, hello, my name is Mason Farr. Wow, you sound like a Star Wars character. That's pretty cool. I just got into gaming, and I really enjoy your videos. I thought your Shin-Chan for Game Boy Advance and Battletoads for NES commentaries were hilarious. The Shin-Chan video is one of my favorites. I don't really remember what I said during Battletoads, but I remember the Shin-Chan one. That was funny. I get a lot of grief at school for playing Game Boy and Nintendo 64, and it's good to know I'm not the only one that plays them. My questions are, in your opinion, what is the best retro system, and what are the best games for it? Also, what are the best games for Nintendo 64 and Game Boy? Thanks, Mason Farr. Let's start. I want to comment on this whole, I get a lot of comments from younger kids who are getting into retro gaming, and, all their friends are like, oh, that's gay, and, that they're not playing, whatever the latest first-person shooter is. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I say that and people get the impression that I'm, anti-Call of Duty or whatever. No, I'm not. I like that series, actually. I am anti-Halo, though. Halo fucking sucks. I don't understand how anybody can play that shit. It's like the worst level design ever. But anyway, it seems that a lot of the younger kids have this sort of mentality that you could either only play newer games or only play retro games. And if you play newer games, you have to hate retro games. And then if you play retro games, you have to hate newer games. And that's really not the case. I primarily play newer games in my spare time when I'm playing video games. Like right now I'm playing Final Fantasy 13-2, and after that I'm not really sure where I'm going to go, but it'll be something else on either the Xbox 360 or the Wii or the PSP or something, Whereas the retro games that I play are mainly for the channel and like for features and shit. But I got to say, I don't understand these kids that they think that if it's old, it sucks, and I don't understand the kids that think if it's new, it sucks. So, I'd like to see more younger kids who are into a more broad spectrum of gaming. Just wanted to get that out there. As for, getting grief at school, fuck them. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? What do they care what you play? Seriously. Okay, so Game Boy, Nintendo 64, I don't know, the best games, it's kind of hard to, I don't know what kind of games you like, so, it's hard to recommend anything. Best retro console, without a doubt, it's the Super NES. You gotta get a Super, if you don't have a Super NES, get emulator, whatever, best system of all time, easily. Super NES was awesome. I may be speaking from a slightly biased standpoint, because I'm into RPGs, so I think of the system that has Final Fantasy 4 and 6 and Chrono Trigger and Lufia and all that, and I'm also into fighting games, though I gotta say, fighting games have gotten better, not worse. So, I hope that answers your questions. I really can't recommend games for you without really knowing what you're into, because I could tell you, oh, this is great, and you can go out and get it, and then, you don't like it. So I don't want to run the risk of steering you wrong. If you want to follow up, tell me what kind of games you like, then I can give you some recommendations. Quackenstein Monster, who wanted me to call him Cue Ball. That's not happening. Quackenstein Monster sent me another message. Says, to clear things up from your moment from my last comment, those were the episodes of the Necro VMX show I have listened to in a season episode format. No, yeah, I got that. What I don't get is why you were telling me random episodes that you listened to. Apologies for the confusion. I have 2 questions for you. What is the funniest glitch you have ever faced in your gaming experiences? And on the flip side, what is the worst glitch you have faced in your gaming experiences? Use your own definition of worst for the second question. Funniest glitch? Be honest, I haven't experienced that many funny glitches. You know what I mean? I don't know if this counts as a glitch, actually. It might be programmed into the game. But I was playing Final Fantasy 13-2 yesterday. And I was in Academia 4XX AF, which if you play the game, you know what that is, but if you don't, doesn't matter. That's the area and time period I was in. And there were a lot of people running around, and I noticed that there were kids running around that would occasionally fall. They would just fall flat on their face, which I thought was funny. And that obviously is programmed into the game because they would fall down and they would go, oof, and then they would get up. But I saw one fall down an escalator, and I don't think that was supposed to happen because she got stuck on the escalator. So you got this little girl who's in this falling position who is on an escalator that was going up, and she's falling down it, so she was kind of like eternally falling down. I don't know if that's a glitch or not, but it was funny. As for the worst glitch... worst glitch. I'm trying to think of it. Well, I was playing a game on the Super Famicom. I was playing a translated version of a game called Tales of Fantasia, and I was enjoying it. And I was walking around on the overworld, and I accidentally... Well, I don't know accidentally. I mean, it was a glitch. I somehow glitched into the ocean. Like I was walking near the shoreline, and I wound up in the ocean, like about 3 spaces into the ocean, and I couldn't get back. And I was like stuck. And I hadn't saved it in a while, and then when I was trying to reload now this is my own stupid fault. When I tried to reload my save, the thing about it was something like you hit F1 to save and Shift F1 to load or something like that. Actually, I think it was Shift F1 to save and F1 to load. Some emulators do it one way, some emulators do it another way, and I got confused and accidentally overwrote my old save. So then that was like my only save was where I was completely stuck and I had to stop playing the game, and I was really pissed off, and I wound up not playing it after that. So that's probably the worst glitch. Not that it's like a super terrible glitch. I mean, it was pretty bad. But the fact that the glitch combined with my confusion over what particular emulator saves what way, just led to a bad situation. So I hope that answers your question. Let's move on here. I got a comment from Realness. Okay, now this guy actually sent me a note on Xbox Live telling me how to pronounce his name, and I can't remember what it said because I think it was Realnsico or so. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I don't remember exactly how your note said it. I was thankful for the note, but that was like almost a week ago. He said, I lolled, great job as usual. Thank you. Dark Hill Pick says, what is your favorite Super Bowl commercial? I assume you mean this year and not of all time. And kind of a weak offering this year in the Super Bowl commercials. I was disappointed by them. Thankfully, the game itself was awesome, so that made up for the shitty commercials. Because usually the game's kind of boring. Usually it's a blowout, you know what I mean? And or it's 2 teams you don't care about or whatever. But in this case, it was a team I do care about winning in a very tight race with a come from the behind victory at the end, which sounded kind of gay, come from behind, but hey, there you go. Made up for the fact that the commercials suck. I can't even remember most of them. I would say that I like the one with Jerry Seinfeld, the Acura commercial, but I had seen that previously on YouTube, so there you go. So that kind of took the thunder out of it, But that was probably my favorite. Nenson Dubois says, how do you feel about gender detection technology and facial recognition in general and in gaming? Are you mortified by it? Those two things alone have swayed me not to buy a 3DS console. Okay, I'm confused by that. Well, not really confused. I'm kind of mortified by your reaction, actually. So you don't want to buy a 3DS because of optional software that you don't have to use that bothers you for some unspecific reason. That's very strange. So I mean, the facial recognition thing is like, it'll the camera on the console will recognize your face and it'll like know who's playing and it might bring up your profile or something. Or a gender detection technology that's a little weird, but that's shown to be fooled a couple times. I really don't know what practical aspect it would have. I guess it would just be, like a greeting, hello sir, or hello ma'am, or whatever. But I don't have any feelings about it. It's not something I would use. It's not something that they're forcing you to use. The fact that you don't want to buy the 3DS just because of that makes me think that you have some issues with it. I don't know what the deal is, so I'm just going to move on. Oh, he left another comment. He also says, I'd like to add that I completely agree on what you said about the Big Bang Theory and would like to add that it is completely unoriginal, just as How I Met Your Mother is. Well, I've never seen that one. Seinfeld is still fresh because it has some of the best writing and pacing for a sitcom and didn't completely revolve around getting laid. Yeah, Seinfeld was great. I still watch that in reruns, and it's still funny. I mean, it's been like fucking 20 years. It's still funny. Savage Broadcast says, good episode, Necro. Glad you liked the Shadow trivia. I have 2 questions for you. I'm going to pretend I know what you're talking about. Number 1, which spoofs do you prefer? The ones by Mel Brooks or the ones by ZAZ, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker, and why? Oh, Mel Brooks is the man, dude. Mel Brooks, that guy is so fun. I've seen all his movies multiple times, so definitely. One of my favorite movies of all time is Blazing Saddles. I love that movie. I'll watch it. Any opportunity I have, I will watch it. I quote it. Sometimes I quote it in videos, and people don't really pick up on that. So, yeah, love Mel Brooks movies. Number 2, since you didn't mention them in Comic-Thon, what did you think of the other Alan Moore adaptations, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and From Hell? Well, I didn't see From Hell. I saw League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I thought was an average movie that had really nothing to do with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It really was a very loose idea. It kind of missed the point completely, and I could see why Alan Moore hated it. I didn't personally hate it. I thought it was an average movie, but I can understand why he did. Moving along, RPG Game Gal 30 says, awesome show, Necro. I've got 3 questions for you. 1. Is Kazar Studios going to have the Chronicles of a Dark Lord series on a console or handheld or both in the future? My opinion is that the series is really made for a handheld like the PSP or Vita. I have to totally agree with you. I'd love to have it on the Vita. We'd love to. We're all really excited about the Vita over at Kazareth because of the possibilities it has. We are all also fans of the PSP. We all have PSPs and we talk about it a lot, I no plans right now to be on there because the licensing for Sony consoles is very, very expensive. We got to make a little money first before we can go to Sony. We are working currently on a version of the game that will be on Xbox 360, and we're hoping to maybe move over to Mac, which we've gotten a lot of questions about. The current version of the game is impossible to play on Mac, but we're actually working with a new engine and sort of remaking the first episode and everything. And, so that's, we are planning on definitely going to consoles. We were all into consoles. PC was chosen because it's easy and, but for this type of game, for JRPGs, you really want to be on the consoles, especially like a PSP or Vita. We'd love to be on there. But right now, the plans are Xbox 360, and then after that, we'll see. Question 2. Is there an official release date yet for Episode 2, War of the Abyss? Those of us who are salivating to get our hands on the game are really eager for it. Well, I can understand, and let me tell you, I've played it. I've been testing it, actually, and it's awesome. And it blows Tides of Fate out of the water. It really does. It's better in every way. Release date? No, don't have a release date. Sometime this year, probably late spring, early summer, is where we're thinking. Late spring, early summer. It's got to be vague because you never know how long the testing is going to go and how many glitches we're going to find and whatnot. But I got to tell you, just playing it, it's coming along great. We got the Scion grid system, which is just really, really cool thing to throw in there. We got a better story. We have an amazing, amazing soundtrack. So if you were salivating already, I assume you have a fire hose of saliva shooting out of your mouth at 50 miles an hour at this point. So I just want to tease you a little on that. Number 3, would you consider having a live stream so we can ask Tanya questions about the series? Well, Tanya is not really one to do live stream. That would be more my speed. And as a matter of fact, sometime soon, I'm not sure exactly when, so I can't give you a date, but sometime soon I'm going to actually be joining a live stream over at emptyapartment.net. As a matter of fact, I recommend you go over to emptyapartment.net. Great site about gaming, and they have actually done a review of Chronicles of a Dark Lord Episode 1, and they gave us a very positive review. It was a very fair and well thought out and balanced review, I thought. And they asked Tanya if somebody from the company can come on a live stream while their LPer plays the game and sort of, ask questions and whatnot. So if you want to be part of that, I can answer any questions you want. I'll be posting about it on YouTube and on Facebook. If you haven't followed me on Facebook yet, I recommend you do. It's facebook.com/necrovmx. It'll also be announced on the Kazar Studios public Facebook page, and the Twitter and all that shit, when the date will be, what the time will be, and then you can come on. There'll be like a chat room where you can ask questions, and I'll be one of the people there answering questions during the live stream. So, hope that answers that question. Let's move on. Cobra DVS says, "Hey Necro, I don't really have to say good show, because I'm sure you already know, lol. But anyway, my question is, are you a fan of the Aliens franchise? And are you looking forward to Aliens Colonial Marines? I also recommend it's Colonial Marines, my bad. Also, I recommend you check out Aliens Infestation on the DS. It's like Metroidvania with aliens and guns. I am a fan of the Aliens series. I am looking forward to Aliens Colonial Marines, and I have not yet checked out Aliens Infestation, but I am interested. It's just that I have so many games laying around that I haven't played yet that I've sort of put buying new games on hold unless it's something that I absolutely need to have, So, yeah, definitely interested, though. Definitely will play that. The Gameable says, "Do you think Deadpool deserves his own video game? And thanks for the compliment about my name." Yeah, I don't know. Like, they would have to do it right. Deadpool in a video, I mean, it'd have to be, like, really wacky and kooky and irreverent. And, Deadpool's sort of at a height of popularity. And I've always been a fan of the character. And coming from someone who just doesn't like Marvel Comics in general, that's really saying something. I hope he does get his own video game. I know he was playable in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and a couple of the X-Men games, but I would like to see a Deadpool game. I would probably check it out if it was good. WWE Nintendo Fan 01 says, "Ha ha ha ha." I love reading things like that out. "I love your answer to my question, the Big Bang Theory one. Now, here is my question. What do you think about..." Just kidding. Ha ha ha. "I noticed that you like Tlaws." I guess that's The Legend of Zelda. "So, what is your favorite game of the series? Just curious. P.S. No grammar mistakes, if you say so." Wind Waker's my favorite. I think I've said that about 1,000,000 times. Moving on. I had a comment from somebody named The Last Samurai 14, but he removed it. Why do people leave comments and then remove it? Oh, he posted it again. Alright, so I'll move on to that. "Great show as always, Necro. Are there any Skyrim mods you recommend downloading?" No! I don't have it for PC. I have it for Xbox. S Serpent 21 says, "Dragon Quest VII because it's better. It's all that needs to be said. How about Dragon Quest versus Final Fantasy as a whole?" The answer is the same. Great show, Necro. Yes, the answer is the same. Dragon Quest. Final Fantasy's great, but I didn't like Final Fantasy VIII. I thought 7 was a good game, but it was overrated. And I refused to play 11 or 14 because they're MMOs, whereas Dragon Quest has had a string of 9 solid games. Now, 10 is going to be one of those ill-advised MMOs that I'm not going to care about, I'm not going to play, and I'm probably going to hate the very idea of, but it hasn't happened yet. So, there you go. Moving on. Mr. Lucky Go Fish says, "Hey, Nick, a great video. I'm going to stop talking about motion controls because I'm making an ass of myself." Well, okay. Anyway, I'm not sure if you have addressed this because I'm a recent subscriber, but where do you get your sales statistics? I actually, I used to get them directly from the NPD, which is sort of a, what do you call it? A consumer guide, and they would report on electronic sales. But the thing is, their reporting was rather sporadic, and they wouldn't give you very good figures, and it really wasn't that great. So I don't do that anymore. Right now, I use a site called Video Game Charts, which is much more detailed. So they report on the sales in a much more detailed way. So that's where I get the sales figures from. Moving on here, I'm on the wrong page here, so let's move back to the YouTube page. Here we are. Fredediah says, "Great episode, Necro, as always. Maybe they should call the Wii U the Wii News and be done with it." I got a better idea. How about no? That's terrible. Wii News? That's just... I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit there. Moving on, L the Original said, "Thanks for answering my questions, Necro. I never knew about the other regions being included in the Japanese charts. Certainly been enlightening." Yeah, it used to be that they weren't, but recently they started reporting Japan as including the Middle East, Africa, and other parts of Asia. So, that's what's going on there. Nettlebox says, "I notice you're reviewing a lot of movies based on video games. What is the best performance in a movie based on a video game?" I don't want to spoil that. I'm not going to answer that because there's still more reviews to go. So I'm gonna refrain from answering that one. Jupe Reindeer says, "In regards to the life from space question, I rather like this one example. It was a college lecture about a planet discovered via the Hubble telescope. The planet held Earth-like properties in its atmosphere. In theory, such an atmosphere comes about like our own, living plant-animal structure. They had recorded and broadcast the lecture on the campus's television channel. Wish I had a VHS cassette to record the thing at the time, as it was an interesting lecture. It beats those UFO stories." Yeah, I mean, like I've said, to think that we're the only ones alone in the entire vastness of the universe is just kind of self-centered. I mean, come on, really? Red Devil Dazzy 2007 says, "Good episode, Necro. I've got to come up with better questions." Well, let's see how you did this week. Number one, he's got 4 questions. Number one, what is the most expensive game you've bought? That's interesting. I assume you mean the most I've personally spent on a single game, and that would probably be... There were a couple of rare GameCube games that I shelled out like $80 for. But I'm trying to remember which ones. Like, I got Ikaruga for steal. I got that for like $40. And I got NCAA College Hoops 2K3, which is the most rarest and most expensive GameCube game, also for steal. I got that for $25, if you could believe it. It's worth like more like $200, so it was interesting. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for PlayStation, I spent $50 on that. And that was also a steal, because it's worth about $100. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I couldn't answer that off the top of my head because I don't remember. Sorry. That was my bad. Number 2, what is the cheapest game you've bought? Well, sometimes I'll go, I've bought games for $1, so... I remember when I was collecting GameCube games, and that's sort of on hold. People ask me about it all the time, are you still collecting GameCube games? Sort of on hold right now. Because my finances are not what they were when I was doing that, so I was just, you got to cut back on certain things. The economy sucks. So I've cut back on that, and I will go back to it. It's not like I'm never going to collect GameCube games again. But, like some of the sports games, like all the Madden shit and all that, and the Tiger Woods and all that, sometimes I go into GameStop and just buy like 5 or 6 of them, and they were like $1 a piece. So I have bought games for $1. Number 3, if you were to take a holiday, let's say you visited the UK, which games would you take with you to pass the time? Well, I don't see myself lugging an entire console and library of games and controllers and everything, and it's just, no. I would probably take my PSP and my DS and some RPGs to pass the time. So there you go. And number 4, what is the strangest thing you've seen a cat do? For example, videos on YouTube or in real life. Well, I can't beat videos on YouTube, but I had a cat once, and I've seen her do some pretty weird shit. Like, I saw her walk across the living room, right in front of the television, on her hind legs. Like, like standing up straight on her hind legs like a human would, but swaying and kind of crazily jumping back and forth. Never did it again. No explanation as to why she did it. It was just this weird thing. So that's probably the strangest thing I've ever seen, because there's no explanation. Moving on. I got a lot of comments this week. I like a lot of comments. Let's see. Dave Cornfan. I think Dave Cornfan is the most consistent for leaving comments. I think I get him every week. Great episode as always, Necro. Oh man, when you were reading my comment and started reading someone else's, I freaked out because the other guy's comment was retardedly about Skyrim being crap, and I started shouting at my monitor, "That's not my comment. Skyrim is awesome." Yeah, that was my bad. You know what it is? I looked away from the monitor, and then I looked back, and I was looking at the wrong thing. Your comment was about the same exact length as the other guy's, and about in the same sentence format, and they were right on top of each other, so that's what happened there. I did realize it, though. What do you think of the HD remakes of games upscaling the resolution? Personally, I don't see the point. I think if you do a remake of a game, it should be like the GameCube's Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid remakes. Well, these aren't really remakes. They're remasters, and I think it's great. I think it is great because think of like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection for PlayStation 3. First off, Ico is a very, very hard game to get. Shadow Colossus also a hard game to get, but Ico very much a hard game to get. I don't even own a complete version of Ico. The version of Ico I have is just the disc and one of those shitty generic GameStop cases because that's all they had. I don't have like the actual original box or the instructions or anything, which sucks because it's one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games. It's a great game, so why would I want it in those shitty fucking generic ugly ass butt bitch cases? I mean, it just fucking sucks. So these games are tough to get. Not only is it bringing the games to new people, but, I mean, you could say, oh yeah, well, they could release them as they are and just emulate them or whatever, and that's true. But people who are buying, like PlayStation 3 games, a lot of them have HD TVs, and if you put standard definition games, this is why these idiots think the Wii has terrible graphics, because the Wii is in SD, and they're playing on an HD TV, so of course it's going to look like crap. Of course it's going to look like crap. That's what happens. So the PlayStation 2 games also look like crap, and it gets these people, not only to play the games, but for them to look good on, I mean, not great, because it's still, it may be an HD remaster, but it's still an older game, but at least looks good on a modern television. I think it's a great thing, and I'm very much in support of re-releasing older games that are good and give them a little brush up. So I think it's a great thing. Moving on. Dyslexic Gamer said, "Is there life after death?" What? Okay, I don't even want to get into this. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Moving on. Pack is back 04 says, "Hey Necro, great show as always. My question is, what is your favorite city in Skyrim? Mine is Riften. I just really like the autumn vibe to it." I also like Riften the best, not because of the autumn vibe, but because it's smaller, easy to get around, and if you play as a thief, it's just a great place to be, and I do play as a thief, so it's basically been my base of operations. I have houses in all the major cities except for Windhelm. I'm waiting on the patch to fix that fucking shit, and I just, like, all my stuff is stored at the Riften house. It's not huge like some of the other houses, but it's small, it's cozy, it's easy to get around. I don't know, I just like Riften. I fuck like an animal. Yes, that's really his username. Says, "Do you like the Bloodhound Gang?" No. The Big MC 109 says, okay, this is a really interesting. I'm actually going to skip this one for now. I'm going to save this question for last because I'm going to go on a little political thing, and I want to get for the rest of this first because there's going to be a big answer to that. So I'm going to move on, and I'll come back. I only have 2 other questions anyway. Uber McPhailsauce asks me, "What would you do for a Klondike bar?" I would go to the store and buy one. I hate those fucking commercials. They're like $1. Go and buy one. Stop clucking like a chicken and acting like an asshole just for fucking ice cream covered in chocolate, you dick. Hate those commercials. They make it seem like a Klondike bar is like fucking ambrosia. They're good. But they're like $1. Just go and buy one. What would you do for a Klondike bar? Pay $1. That's what I would do. And Mr. Lover of Ganja says, "How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?" How the fuck would I know? Why do I get questions like that? All right, moving on. Big MC, the Big MC 109. As a Pennsylvanian, do you like Rick Santorum? You guys know him better than the rest of the country. Well, I gotta applaud you for actually reaching out and asking someone who lives in the state that he governed in. He was a senator here, and he, well, I'll get to what happened with him. I mean, like, for example, in the last presidential election, when it was John McCain and Sarah Palin going up against Barack Obama and Joe Biden, I wasn't sure what to think of Sarah Palin. My initial reaction was that of horror. But then again, I thought, I don't really know anything about her. The media portrays people a certain way, and you gotta not be swayed by what the media portrays them in. So I asked a person from Alaska what they thought of her, and I got a very reasoned response, and it was a very positive response. But I still don't like her, though. I mean, I like her a little more than most people, but I'm not really a fan. But anyway, Rick Santorum. Okay, how do I put this lightly? Okay, fuck putting it lightly. I don't put anything lightly. Rick Santorum is evil. He is evil. If I was to believe in, the devil, I would believe that he is either the devil or that he's, butt buddies with the devil. Like, he's very close to the devil. He is evil. Now, I'm not, some liberal guy who's like, Rick Santorum's evil because he's a conservative or whatever, and I'll get to that in a second. As you guys probably know, I myself do identify as Republican, and I would rather have. I'm right now. I'm supporting Mitt Romney. I would rather have Mitt Romney than Rick Santorum. I would rather have Newt Gingrich, and I don't like Gingrich. I would rather have Ron Paul. I would really rather have Herman Cain. That's who I really wanted to vote for, but that didn't work out. Rick Santorum, if he got the nomination, that would be just like giving the presidency to Obama for 4 more years, which is not something I'd be a fan of. He's evil. And let me tell you what happened here in Pennsylvania. He was a senator in Pennsylvania. And he was fairly popular at first, but then people got to know him. And he ran for 2 terms. He governed for 2 terms as a senator. And it was in his bid for a 3rd term that all the shit cropped up. That's when he got booted out. Well, he got voted out. But I prefer to think that somebody picked him up by his collar and his pants and booted him out the door like a drunk in an old movie. Just want to say a few things about Rick Santorum. One is that when he lost his re-election bid for a 3rd term, he lost by the widest margin that any congressman has ever lost by in United States history. So just want to point that out. So, we're not fans of him here. Rick Santorum is evil. He is corrupt. He is a liar. He is a bigot. He is a homophobe. And he is a generally disgusting person that is sick and twisted in the head. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this because people listen to the show to hear about video games and video game culture and video game news, and I want to get to the video game news. But people keep asking me political questions, and it's hard not to go on these political benders. So I'm going to go on a very minor one here and tell you about all those things. I'm going to back up every single one of those things that I said. He is corrupt. He is a liar, and I will tell you about that. What happened is there was a Democrat named Casey who was running against him. And Casey was gaining in popularity, and they started a really vicious smear campaigns against each other, especially Santorum smearing Casey. And what happened was Casey was kind of clean, so he couldn't really go up against him too much. But what he was trying to do, what he was trying to say, was that the people who were contributing to Casey's campaign were corrupt. So he made accusations against several specific individuals stating that these people had been contributors to the Casey campaign and that they were all under investigation for various crimes such as voter fraud. Now, not only did that turn out not to be true, but several of the people that he made these accusations against had actually contributed to his own campaign, and one of them had been dead for 2 years. Basically, he was accusing a dead guy of being under investigation for crimes. Obviously, a lie. So there's the whole corruption and lying part. As for him being a bigot, this is the guy who has supported every I want to say anti-gay measure that anybody can come up with. He's 40. He hates gay people. Now, a lot of people think that, all Republicans hate gay people. It's not true. All the rest of the candidates that are currently running, you have Romney, Ron Paul, and Newt Gingrich. They all have personal issues with the idea of gay people getting married, but they all agree that it should be decided by the people whether it should be legal or not, that it should be put to a vote. So there you have it. Santorum's the only one who is blanket statement saying, no, forget it, not going to happen. Okay, so that handles the bigot part. As for him being sick and twisted in the head, and I gotta warn you guys, this is a little disturbing. I almost don't want to tell you because it's so twisted, but I feel that people should know about this. Very sad thing happened. Rick Santorum and his wife were having a baby, and the baby was stillborn, which means it either did not survive childbirth, or it was already dead when it was born, which is a very sad, tragic thing. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But here's the sick and twisted part. Rick Santorum took the corpse of his child, this baby, home, and introduced it to his other children as their little brother. So, just imagine being these young kids who, first off, they were looking forward to, mom coming home with a new baby, they're going to have a little brother or a little sister, in this case, a little brother, and then having to be told that the baby was dead is already very traumatic. Not much you can do about that. But to actually basically say to the kids, hey, check out this dead body. That's sick. It's twisted. It's abusive. It's evil. I can go on and on and on and on about Rick Santorum. Lastly, and this is the most recent thing, he is currently the only presidential candidate in the either party who supports the SOPA bill. So chew on that for a little while. So I have to see, I don't like to get too political, but you guys keep asking me political questions, so obviously it's, you don't mind, or if it's what you want, but I have to urge anybody, if you are a Republican, and you're going to vote I urge you to vote in the upcoming primaries in your states, vote against Rick Santorum. I'm not going to tell you to vote for Mitt Romney or Ron Paul, even though they're clearly the two best candidates. You could vote for Newt Gingrich if you want. Any vote away from Rick Santorum is a good vote, as far as I'm concerned. And the same goes for anybody who is an independent or a Democrat, and if your state has open primaries, which means that anybody can vote in the primaries, please vote against Rick Santorum. So, glad you asked me that question. I can get that out there, and I hope that the people who don't care about politics or don't want to hear about politics, especially people who are listening from other countries who don't really want to care about American politics, hope that didn't bug you too much. But that's it for questions and comments. So we're going to get into the news. Now, I don't have a whole lot of news this week. Been a kind of a slow news week, but I do have interesting news, very interesting stuff. So I want to talk about this. Now, I've been talking about Darkstalkers on and off for a while now. I think, since the last season, and the fact that certain people over at Capcom have been sort of wanting to bring Darkstalkers back. And Capcom's higher-ups have sort of been against this in a way, but they've recently been teasing a re-release or remake of the original Darkstalkers, and by recently I'm talking about last 3 years or so. But it looks like it may happen. It may actually happen. The rumors are starting to get stronger. The evidence is piling up. And it looks like something may happen because right now they've registered a new trademark for the term Darkstalkers in Europe. No news on whether they've done this in America. They would not do this in Japan because the series is not called Japan in Europe. It's called Vampire, and obviously you can't trademark the word vampire. But they have re-trademarked, I should say, the word Darkstalkers in Europe. Now, this could be anything. This could be them releasing it on like PSN or Xbox Live or something. Or it could be the revival that we've heard about so much. Capcom hasn't answered really on what's going on. They said, we have not made any announcements, which doesn't mean anything, really. It doesn't mean yes, it doesn't mean no. So, for fans of Darkstalkers, there may be light at the end of the tunnel. Now, do you guys remember a game? Well, I'm talking exclusively to the older gamers, the retro gamers. A game called Karateka. It was an early fighting game in which you played as this generic karate guy who was running across this feudal Japanese type thing, just kicking the crap out of people, trying to rescue a princess. It was a pretty cool game. I remember playing it on PC back in the day. Apparently, Karateka is getting a reimagining, and they're saying it's going to be kind of like how Prince of Persia got a reimagining. There was Prince of Persia 1 and 2, and then nothing for a long time. And Sands of Time came out and sort of reinvented the entire thing. They're going to be doing this with Karateka. So, no news yet on what kind of gameplay we're looking at, what system's release date or anything, but did want to mention that it is getting made. I do have more news on Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Apparently, we've added more characters. So, M. Bison, Akuma, and Jin and Ogre have been added to the mix. So, there you go. I actually want to, real quick... Actually, I'm going to bring up the full lineup again, because I lose track. They've added a lot of characters to Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and I want to bring that up and let you know everybody that's in it. So right now, the full Street Fighter lineup is Ryu, Ken, Guile, Abel, Chun-Li, Cammy, Sagat, Dalsim, Poison, Yugo, Ibuki, Rolento, Zangief, Rufus, Balrog, Vega, Juri, M. Bison, and Akuma. The full Tekken lineup so far: Kazuya, Nina, King, Marduk, Bob, Julia, Hwoarang, Steve, Yoshimitsu, Raven, Kuma, Heihachi, Lilia, Asuka, Law, Paul, Xiaoyu, Jin, and Ogre. And guests that are exclusive to the PlayStation 3 and Vita console versions are Cole, Toro, Kuro, Mega Man, and Pac-Man. Of course, the Mega Man being the old box art Mega Man, which I think is hilarious, by the way. Now, Australia, for the longest time, when I'm talking about Australia, they have not had any... They have a rating system in Australia, and unlike the rating system in America, which is the ESRB, their rating system is actually done by the Australian government. And they don't have anything above 15 plus. That's their highest rating. So if a game is considered not appropriate for 15-year-olds, then it is denied classification and thereby essentially banned in Australia. They cannot sell it in Australia. As a matter of fact, it goes to the extreme that the game Manhunt 2, it's actually illegal to own it. It's a criminal offense to own a copy of Manhunt 2 in Australia. I mean, I don't think they're going to be busting down your door or nothing, but it is illegal to own it. Now, Australia has not had an 18-plus rating, and due to this, popular games such as Mortal Kombat have been completely banned there, which is a shame because Mortal Kombat was marketed in Australia, and then the government had to basically tell all the stores to take down the posters, to cancel all the pre-orders. You remember I did the story about that last year. It looks like Australia is finally caving to the rest of the world and saying we're going to make an 18-plus rating. So, this has been going on for years. So, this is going to happen. They are agreeing, the government has agreed to the new rating, and it's not going to happen right away. It's probably going to happen in 2013, early 2013. But it is happening. So it's good news for people in Australia who, want to be able to play mature games. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, and speaking of Street Fighter, one thing that we've wanted to see for a long time is Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. Or Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, whatever. And Ed Boon has been very open to this idea. As a matter of fact, he wants to do it. He would love to do it. Well, I don't know. Ed Boon has been... He's a troll face sometimes. He trolls. And recently on his Twitter, he posted, "Yes, great catching up with you too. Looking forward to our first Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter meeting. First order business. Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter or Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat?" And then a winky smiley face. Now, apparently he's having a meeting. Now, he could be trolling. He could be saying, dropping hints that he wants to do this, and that he wants to have a meeting with Capcom, and that he wants it to happen, and then they are not interested, because Capcom has said they're not interested in the past. But it's weird that he would post that on Twitter and basically put them on the spot. So it's a rumor right now, but you never know what might be happening. So just want to make you guys aware of that. Good news for fans of Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 3 has officially been announced. Let me bring that up. As a matter of fact, it has a release date already. It is coming October 30th of this year. I have a quote from Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft. He says, "We will push the title a lot because it's a fantastic product that the team has been working on for 3 years. What we have seen is just fabulous." He also said it is the biggest launch in Ubisoft history, and is currently in development for the following consoles: PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PC, and the Wii U. So, there you go. Nobody knows what time period it's taking place, where it's taking place, or anything like that, but it is happening. Nobody even knows what the character is going to be. It's not going to be Altair, it's not going to be Ezio. Good news for people playing Final Fantasy 13-2, the HNIC is returning. That's right. Saz Katrovsky is going to be in a downloadable content called Heads or Tails that will be released sometime this month. As a matter of fact, February 28th is the exact release. It's called Saz Heads or Tails. You'll take on Saz Katsuroy's... You're going to play as him. And then, his events take place at the same time as the events of the game. And then after you finish it, you could add him to your party, much in the way that you could add Lightning and Amadar to your party. So, that's what's going on with that. The HNIC is back. Last news story of the day, and this is funny. Last week, I did a story about Resident Evil Revelations having an obnoxiously bad typo on the box art, on the spine. Well, so let me tell you, somebody at Capcom's probably going to get fired over this, because Asura's Wrath also has a typo. Now, this one they've caught. It hasn't actually been released to retail yet, but review copies have gone out, and on the back cover it says relentless action and near impossible challenges. Except it doesn't actually say that. It says relentless action and near impossible challenges. Challenges. They put an extra N in there. Don't know what the hell's going on with Capcom. Capcom has said it won't appear on retail copies of Asura's Wrath, but those review copies that are out there might be worth something someday. Because especially if they're not going out to retail, they're going to be really rare. So if you ever see that, Asura's Wrath, like on eBay or whatever, for a lot of money, now you'll know why. So that's going to be it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you got through all the politics with your head intact. It wasn't that bad. But that'll be the show. That's the news. And actually, I got to do the sales figures. Never mind. I forgot to do that. I forgot to do the sales figures. So let's do that first. Almost forgot. Almost ended the show without doing the sales figures. And I know there are people who look forward to that, so that would have been really stupid. So let's start with video games in Japan. So here we have the top 10 best-selling video games in Japan for the week ending in February 12th. Number one selling game was Shikoden Sumagareshi Hyakunin no Toki. That's for the PSP. That's right, there's a new Suikoden game for the PSP. That sold 63,642 copies. Gravity Days for the Vita sold 38,347 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 24,091 copies. Resident Evil Revelations, spelled correctly, I hope. It's for the 3DS, sold 22,956 copies. Monster Hunter 3G on the 3DS sold 21,068 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS sold 19,356 copies. Armored Core 5 on the PlayStation 3 sold 12,231 copies. Gran Turismo 5 on PlayStation 3 sold 11,728 copies. Just Dance Wii on the Wii sold 8,327 copies. And Soul Calibur 5 on the PlayStation 3 sold 8,088 copies. A very low-key week in terms of sales in Japan, dominated completely by Sony and Nintendo. So there we have it. In Europe, the top-selling game of the week ending in February 11th was Final Fantasy XIII-2, which sold 61,447 copies. That's on PlayStation 3, by the way. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on the PlayStation 3 sold 41,937 copies. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning for Xbox 360 sold 39,588 copies. The same game for PlayStation 3 sold 38,038 copies. Final Fantasy XIII-2 on the Xbox 360 sold 35,976 copies. Just Dance 3 on the Wii sold 39,703 copies. Metal Gear Solid HD Collection for PlayStation 3 sold 28,773 copies. FIFA Soccer 12 on PlayStation 3 sold 28,107 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 27,150 copies. And Zumba Fitness on the Wii sold 25,538 copies. Moving on to America, the top-selling game was Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning for Xbox 360, which sold 214,980 copies. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning for PlayStation 3 sold 121,409 copies. Resident Evil Revelations on the 3DS, 85,937 copies. The Darkness 2 on Xbox 360 sold 75,573 copies. Final Fantasy XIII-2 on PlayStation 3 sold 58,456 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on Xbox 360 sold 54,133 copies. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning on the PC sold 49,163 copies. The Darkness 2 on PlayStation 3 sold 45,290 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, that's on PlayStation 3, sold 41,272 copies, and Just Dance 3 on the Wii sold 40,886 copies. So globally, the biggest selling game was Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, the Xbox 360 version selling a bit more, actually a lot more than the PlayStation 3 one. Final Fantasy XIII-2 after that, then Resident Evil Revelations, The Darkness 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. That actually sold a little better than Darkness 2, but it's spread across two systems, with the PlayStation 3 one selling a little better. Mario Kart 7, Just Dance 3, and Kingdoms of Amalur also was on PC, so that's definitely the top-selling game of the week. Moving on to console sales. Over in Japan, the top-selling console was the 3DS, selling 68,541 units. The PlayStation 3, 21,819 units. The PSP at 15,960 units. The Vita at 14,400 units. The Wii at 8,096 units. The DS at 1,615 units, and the Xbox 360 at 1,036 units. In Europe, the top-selling console was the PlayStation 3, which sold 62,358 units. The 3DS sold 49,811 units. The Xbox 360, 37,676 units. The Wii, 25,002 units. The DS, 16,963 units. The PSP, 12,168 units. The Vita's not out in Europe yet. North America, the top-selling console was Xbox 360, which sold 102,000 units. At number 2, the 3DS sold 76,687 units. The PlayStation 3, 64,725 units. The Wii, 40,770 units. The DS, 30,258 units. The PSP, 11,288 units. The Vita has not been released yet. So, globally, number 1 was the 3DS, followed by the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, the Wii, the DS, the PSP, the Vita, only out in Japan. That's last. So that will be the show. that will be the show for this week. And I'll see you guys next week. If you want to be on the show, contact me. But actually do it. If you don't, no big deal. I've been actually getting used to doing these on my own. It's easier. I do like to have guests on, but it is easier to do it myself. So I'll see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed it. VMX out.